Welcome to another episode of Dad's Rules with Kevin Belzer, and today we are on location again. We're on location a lot. Just kind of works for us.
Yeah.
They've got a nice, snazzy little studio here. We're at the Menace Underground in Mesa, Arizona, in the MAF podcast booth. So if you don't listen to my podcast, which would be really funny because actually right now they are listening to my podcast.
Maybe.
Okay, so better yet, I should be saying, if you're not listening to the MAF podcast, you probably should be listening to podcasts as well as my podcast.
Yes.
Because mine are nice and short.
Yeah.
They're not overwhelming.
Nice. Right. Well, I don't think so.
I've had one episode ever that hit an hour.
That's long.
And
but
that was ridiculously
if it was
long.
interesting, yeah.
The longest after that was 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Normally they're 25 minutes or less. A lot of them are like 12, 13 minutes. I just don't like really long podcasts.
Yeah.
So that's what I make for people is not long podcasts. And here
Yeah.
I digress for the last 30 plus seconds.
But that's what we do.
So today, let's go over a rule.
Okay.
It is in the first book. Do not buy this book. You're really like, wait, Kevin, why do you not want me to buy this book that is available on Amazon and went Amazon bestseller? Because in the next few months, we will be redoing this book. It'll have added content. So I'm just telling you, just hold off. Just buy it then. We'll be publishing it. We'll probably be doing an audio version of it as well. It will be, it'll be available Kindle version. The last one was available Kindle version. But what's going to end up happening is you're going to have an additional little bits.
Content.
Yeah, additional content, little extra bits to each chapter throughout. Yeah. It adds like another 20 pages to it. And the other thing I did is I reworked some of the chapters to make them flow a little bit better. And we found the last, hopefully, of the errors that were in it. There weren't that many.
We're human, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, there was only a couple, and then once we started moving sentences around and whatnot, we had to restructure paragraphs and stuff like that. But anyway, that stuff is all at the end stages. We're going to reshoot the cover, so you won't get confused and see this cover. It'll be a totally different one.
Cover.
It'll actually have me on the cover instead of a hand holding up the world, which is a pretty cool cover. But
it's a cool cover.
Yeah. So today what I wanted to do is I wanted to go over rule number 5, which is patience is BS.
Patience is barbecue sauce?
Patience is barbecue sauce. Yeah, that's exactly what it stands for. Patience is barbecue sauce. I guess
that was for you, Brian and Donna.
We'll just go with that. So it is, patience is bullshit is rule number 5. What?
I tend to, he's all like whatever, and I'm like, I always think of like the alternative swear words to say, and barbecue sauce probably popped into my head earlier today. Self-cracked up by it, so.
Yeah, go on the swag shop. There's a Patience is BS shirt, and now I'm thinking about that. Before this is released, we probably need to make a Patience is barbecue sauce shirt.
That would be a shirt I would wear.
Yeah, so when you see this episode, I think we can pretty much guarantee at that time that there will be a barbecue sauce t-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, so there you go. We're going to figure out how to continually add new swag to it. Hopefully you guys like the stuff that we've been putting out on it so far. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite one is probably rule number 15, start the clock.
Start the clock. That is
shirt.
our favorite.
I absolutely love that shirt. I think that one's pretty badass.
That one's our favorite.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty cool. So I did start out rule number 5 with a quote from Nickelback.
Don't be a hater.
Are you laughing over there?
Look,
Look,
be a hater.
this was a great line from their song After the Rain. Everybody says that life takes patience, but nobody wants to wait.
Yeah.
It's a great line. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the main purpose of this rule, I don't even need the book because obviously I wrote it, but what do you think the main purpose of the rule is? We discussed this earlier on the drive here, but what does patience is barbecue sauce mean to you? It's actually bullshit.
Yeah, it's fine. It just, sometimes things happen right now. That's what I think of sometimes when I make it happen. But sometimes in the waiting, you're wasting time. So sometimes you have to go, not be patient, and make some action.
That's actually not a bad sum up of it. I wrote the rule not being opposed to patience.
Yeah.
And most people read the rule and they go, oh, you don't believe in patience.
Be impatient. No, that isn't what it is.
Where we struggle is we put patience a lot of times in the wrong place.
That's probably a good. That's the purpose of this chapter. Don't
Right.
put it in the wrong place.
Right. So life teaches us to go to school, then go to college, then get a job, work your way up through that job, stay with that job for the next 20, 30 years, retire. And hey, in the meantime, we're going to give you 1-2 weeks off a year because we're in America. We don't believe in this 5 weeks thing, which is kind of ridiculous.
Some you get some nice vacation, but not commonly.
But you got to get a lot of years in
True.
for you to get
Probably
that.
true.
And we'll give you weekends off too. And you're going to be happy and you're going to like the fact that you're just kind of getting by.
Yeah. It's no fun.
No, it's no fun. You can fall
Some
in
people
that.
like it, and that's the security of sometimes that can happen, but
Right. And if that's the kind of life you want, great.
that's awesome.
But here's what I'm going to
We're not
challenge.
knocking it.
Here's what I'm going to challenge you with. If you're in a job that you think you're going to like, you need to go full bore into that job. So if you start in the they always say the mail
Mailroom.
Yeah. You start in the mailroom. You
We're
start as
aging ourselves.
You can read a lot of stories about people, though, that they started like being low in the office. They were letter deliverer, taking stuff to desk to
The
desk.
office courier.
Or they were secretary, or they were just
janitor.
just somebody
Anything.
inputting stuff on a
Yeah,
keyboard.
or just the very, I don't want to make it sound insulting. Basic tasks? Just
But they are basic tasks because we've talked about it before.
the general
We talked about it
tasks.
before. There are $20 an hour jobs and $1,000 jobs.
Yeah.
The whole point of a CEO or somebody higher up in even a sales position where they're making way more than 20 an hour.
Yeah.
The whole point of that person is to be excelling the company forward.
Yes.
Okay, that's what their job is.
That is what their job
Over
is.
the top, they're supposed to do that. Sales is supposed to be driving in the sales. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's right in their name.
Yeah.
The CEO is supposed to be making sure that they're taking everything in the proper direction.
Right.
So wherever you're at in this whole cycle, if you're not in sales or in any other position, and you're like, I like the company, I think I'm going to stay here a long time. What
Right.
I would challenge somebody to do, though, is to go full 100% out on it and not be patient that, oh, I'm going to have to be in this job for a year or 2 years before I can advance.
Right.
There's no written rule of any of that.
I don't
We've
think
watched,
so.
our son has been at Home Depot since when? What month did he start? Like April?
March.
March
I think
of
March.
2022. So he's been there since March of 2022. But he did things throughout the course of the year to set him apart from other people that he worked at because he liked working there. And we told him, we're like, you just need to just make sure that you're doing your job to the best of your ability, always going 100% on everything you're doing.
Which I think he naturally does anyway.
Right, and people noticed.
Yeah, people did notice, and that's what I'm thankful for is when people notice.
So you look at now, he started as a lot attendant. That means you're making sure the lot's picked up, you're making sure that carts are put away. That's your job.
Help
It is
customers their
it is a
loads.
starting job there. Starting level. It really is.
It's one of the departments, yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of the starting
Yeah, I don't.
jobs. But it's an important job that needs to be done
Yeah.
nonetheless. But what he did over the course of the last lesson year is he found other ways to set himself apart. He ended up getting awards, and he got to where in February he gets promoted to a different department in gardening, which he
Yeah.
really wanted to be in gardening.
Yeah.
So we'll see once he's in gardening if he likes it. But what I like what he's doing is he's saying that, hey, I'm going to do whatever job I'm at to the best of my ability in order to get where I want to be. Because he didn't like being in the lot over the summer.
No, it was hot, but he still did everything to the best of his
He
ability,
did.
which made me
And I'm
proud
not saying he
because-
didn't, but what I'm saying is that he still every day showed up and did his job to the best of his ability and got them to notice. Other people quit, other people, whatever, they just fell off, whatnot. But it opened up an opportunity for him to advance into another department. When he gets to gardening, will he like it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I do know is he's doing what I'm saying that you need to do here in rule number 5. Patience is bullshit. You need to go into whatever that job is and apply yourself to the best ability possible and do every task there at 100% to see if you do like the job.
Because I don't think you can get an actual gauge of the job unless you do the whole job.
Right, we see in real estate. So I'm in real estate. We see people get into it and they do it half-assed and they quit.
Because they're like, it doesn't work. It's terrible.
But what if they'd gone in, followed all our instructions of, hey,
Done
here's
more
how many
things.
here's how many calls you need to be making a
Yeah.
day. Here's when you need to be prospecting. Here's how many appointments you need to do a conversion. And they'd actually followed scripting and did everything we'd said they did, and then made a decision that they didn't like it. I'd respect that person.
Yeah.
The
then
person
they've
that said-
given it and done the whole thing and were able to gauge it properly.
The person that just quit, no respect, zero respect for what
Right.
they did.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me.
They didn't give it a chance.
They didn't give it a chance, and they just complained about how awful the job is. What they should have done instead is gone in full bore, found out if they like it or not. Because look, there's a lot of people that get into sales and it's not for them.
Is there something more I can do?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe what you find out is like, what if they'd gone in 100% to it and they found out what they liked is they liked their conversations that they were having initially with the lender or with title, and they go, I don't really like the real estate part of it, but I like the money part of it. And they'd found out that, oh, maybe I need to go try that out
Yeah.
instead.
Right.
Or I like the contract side of things.
Yeah.
And they got into title. Or they're like, you know what, I geek out when I get an inspection report.
Yeah.
And because you can make really good money
Yeah.
as an inspector. You can
Yeah.
make a six-figure income as an inspector.
But you have
So-
to be attention to detail if you're going to be that kind of a person.
Right, but maybe they just geeked out and they
Yeah.
loved that part of it, and they found out that, hey, because they went 100%.
Because they got a view of the whole thing.
So
Bird's eye.
the whole point of patience is bullshit is that you need to speed the whole process up. What you're trying to find out very quickly is, do you like this task or do you not? And the byproduct of it is that if you find out that you do like it, your income will increase.
It has to.
It has to, because what you're going to find out is that you're going to go, okay, because this is what happened to me. I said, I'm sick of making 100,000 a year. What can I do in this whole process to make it to where I make 250, 300,000 a year? What can I correct in here? So I got to where I started super analyzing that part of it, because I already figured out the first part. Because I got to where, okay, I know how many calls I need to make to convert someone. I know all this, but what task can I delegate out that I don't like? Because I like the overall task, which is selling
Right.
real estate.
Right.
But what tasks I don't like, what can I delegate out so that I can then have more time delegated to what I do like doing and increase my income?
That's also your area of expertise. It's your time is best put into that.
Yeah,
The part that you do,
yeah,
the time is best put there. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So that's my big thing on that. There's a lot of cool stories that I did in Patience is Bullshit. So when this does get reissued, you're definitely going to want to read these. But I broke down companies in there that applied patience the wrong way.
Yeah.
And what they did is they stayed status quo. So that's probably the last aspect I want to get into, the whole patience thing, is you can be so patient on it that you run yourself out of a job, out of an occupation, out of a company. So you look, and this was crazy, but you look in here, let me find the exact page, because this actually, when I was doing the research for this chapter, it blew my mind, the companies that are no longer around.
Oh, yeah, that was actually eye-opening, surprising.
Yeah, and what I noticed across the board about all of them is that they were patient to a fault, or they
Fatal patience.
or they asked for the government to get involved with them. There's a couple companies on here that asked for government interference in order to put tariffs on companies that were coming in to take their business because they weren't innovating anymore.
Yeah.
So here's companies back in 1955. Here's some of the companies that were in business at the time. They're no longer around.
Yeah.
American Motors.
Okay.
They were consumed by Chrysler.
Oh, okay.
Brown Shoe, Studebaker, they went out of business. Collins Radio, Detroit Steel, Zenith Electronics, and National Sugar Refining. Remember how huge Zenith was as a TV?
That was like the brand.
When TV changed from the big console thing that we had to drag across the rocks when it broke, when it changed from that to plasma and then LCD,
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
yeah, whatever it is, changed to those TVs, they didn't innovate. And also they asked for government to get involved to help them out and fund them. And the government actually said no, which I actually think was the right approach.
Yeah.
It should be up to the company. These are companies that are still in the top 500 from back then that did innovate. Boeing, Campbell Soup, General Motors, Kellogg, Procter & Gamble, John Deere, IBM, and Whirlpool.
Okay.
All major sectors with major competition, but they actually continue to innovate. They weren't sitting on their laurels. Like if you look back then in 1955, was Boeing making Apache helicopters?
No.
No. The answer is simply no.
Yeah.
They weren't. But do we see them flying in Mesa at Boeing? We do. And so that's just for Boeing. Campbell's went from basic generic soup to also having other soup lines. They expanded their lines.
Yeah.
General Motors, they bought out a lot of other car companies. They are continually innovating and changing how they make cars. Whether you personally like their aesthetics or not, the new Corvette with the Ferrari engine is pretty badass.
Yeah, that one's...
Procter & Gamble, that's soaps and stuff like that. This stuff people need every day. John Deere has always found a way to stand above the shoulders of others. IBM, you don't hear a lot about IBM anymore because of how they release their products, but they're
Right.
a larger company than when your mom worked for them
Yes.
in the 80s and 90s. And then you look at the last group, and what I love about the last group, these are companies that didn't even exist in 1955, but came out and created their own sector. And that would be Facebook, eBay, Home Depot, Microsoft, Google, Netflix, Office Depot, and Target.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they didn't even exist then. So it blows your mind that they weren't even in the top 500, nothing back then, but they became innovators in their sectors. Like we didn't have social media
Right, like...
back then. I think that Facebook was founded in 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2004. So anything before 2004, there wasn't even Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, but you look that rather than take the status quo and go, well, we don't have something like that, they went and created it.
Right.
Rather than have people have to go to a physical auction, eBay came out and said,
Hey, let's do it online.
let's do it online. Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Blockbuster went out of business because they didn't innovate.
Right.
They had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million.
Isn't that crazy?
They laughed them out of the
Every time I
room.
hear that, that's crazy.
You look at Netflix now, one of the largest companies out there. They keep expanding the studios out in New Mexico where they film most of their stuff. But you look at that Netflix said initially they were mailing DVDs to people,
Right.
and they're like, well, what if we stream this? Then the technology didn't necessarily exist yet, but the technology caught up and allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
Because these companies weren't patient in accepting that things are just the way they are.
You're right. They chose to grow, find
yeah.
a way to grow.
They found a way to grow and to innovate.
Yeah. Instead of sitting there.
Yeah, I absolutely love this rule. I think you guys will like it too. Like I said, we'll have it revised here in the new year. It's on my to-do list. Yeah.
To do.
Believe me, I'm not being patient about it. It's one of the very first edits I get to do at the beginning of January because we're recording this in December.
Yeah.
One of the very first edits I have to do is finish editing that one out and then get the photo shoot done for that cover, and then it can be launched. So it's just a matter of timing on that one. But in the meantime, you can show support by buying swag.
Swag.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, patience is barbecue sauce. Or patience is bullshit. Either way. All right, that'll be a wrap on another episode. If you liked it, leave a review. If you hated it, leave a review and just lie and say you liked it. Subscribe, share, comment, tell your friends, your enemies alike. Until next time, go out and be the kick-ass adult I know you all can be.